Hello, thanks for joining me today. My name is Madison Ryan. I'm the channel support here at Siemens along with Kurt Pennington. We're here to support our partners talking about data management. We have a number of people online today, so if you have questions, please type them into the chat and we'll answer if time permits, or we can follow up with all of you separately to answer questions. Also, we're recording this to show those that could not attend, so if you have issues with that, you can disconnect now. We'd like to discuss Teamcenter RapidStart and the new software and services bundles, do a live demonstration, and follow up with an ROI example. So when we analyze the market, we realize that we have small to medium-sized businesses that have the same basic needs for data management that large businesses do, like a single source of data, history, security, searching, all the same things that large companies do, but they need a low-cost, high-value solution. These companies have let us know that they want the most used solution in the world, which is Teamcenter. So they want the Cadillac, but at a Ford Focus price. So because of this, we've developed some new software bundles and services bundles for Teamcenter RapidStart. And Teamcenter RapidStart is the same exact software as Teamcenter. It's just that we use an overlay to provide pre-configured groups and roles, workflow, and reports. And the best part is the 1-week deployment. So to support this, we've introduced Solid Edge for Teamcenter and SolidWorks for Teamcenter bundles. And they include everything that you need as a CAD user using Teamcenter RapidStart. So here we have an example of one type of standard installation for Teamcenter RapidStart. You don't have to choose this installation, but this is the one we have for small businesses at a reduced cost. We offer Teamcenter RapidStart with an integration for NX Solid Edge or SolidWorks, Office document management, visualization, out-of-the-box workflow, and pre-configured reports. The implementation includes installation and information on saving your CAD and non-CAD data into Teamcenter RapidStart. You can add on help with your legacy data import if you wish. Training is self-paced online training, and you can choose to add on the instructor-led training. Support is through the normal channels, your partner, and also Siemens Global Technical Access Center, GTAC, where somebody will be on the phone in 90 seconds or less to help you. So we're the only ones that supply you with dual support. You can go to your partner or you can go directly to Siemens. And then you can add on extra IT help if you would like, if you need to do that. So this provides you with a quick installation that's based on best practices that we've learned around the globe and gets you up and running quickly. So it'll mean minimal IT support and a quick ROI. We're going to discuss the cost of this and walk through an actual ROI at the end of this presentation. But let's get to the good part. We want to see the solution that we're offering. So the benefits that we've discussed, like a single source of data, common workflow processes, are all included. And I'm going to turn this over to Kurt Pennington now so that he can demonstrate this, and then I'll come back after his demonstration to show the ROI.
So my name's Kurt Pennington. I work within Siemens, been there about 12 years, and work with Madison as well. I'm going to talk to you about managing data with Teamcenter. The purpose of my presentation is really to give you an initial look at core capabilities of Teamcenter. So I'll touch on data searching, managing designs and documentation, the ease of building relational data links within Teamcenter, and then the benefits of the embedded visualization. And really what it's about is creating consistent in-house processes within your organization. We have the ability to automate a lot of manual type of tasks, so we can reduce that reduction and reduce the amount of redundant information that has to be input. Many times we see people inputting bill of materials in multiple places or doing things like that. But it's really about giving visibility to the status of your product throughout the organization and really reaching across the entire organization. So it's not just a product for engineering, but it's a product for everybody within your organization. Of course, we'll just show the ease of use of using Teamcenter. So my agenda is really, we're just going to talk about some challenges that companies like yours are probably facing, how Teamcenter is that single source of data, and then I'll do a live demonstration where I touch on these 4 key points. So the first thing is, Teamcenter is a PLM system. Of course, it has a backbone of PDM, but it is a PLM system. And what we typically see when we implement it inside an organization is that organization has an increase in efficiency by over 20%. Much of that just comes from reclaiming non-value-added time. Sorry. So such as, data reentry, maybe when I create a drawing or something, a certain document type, I need that converted to PDF or some other format that I can share. And we can automate those type of things within Teamcenter. The other thing is that we can increase the productivity with the tight integration to CAD applications or Office type applications. We can increase the productivity across the organization. And because we've implemented Teamcenter and our partners have done it hundreds and thousands of times, we know what we're doing. We can get it up and running quickly, so you can get that return on investment very quickly. So just looking at the typical company landscape nowadays as far as how data is managed, many companies are still managing on a file server or even just maintaining files on a local desktop. Now that's pretty typical of what we see. Now of course they set up folder structures and they have admins for those folders and write controls over those folders, but many times duplicate copies become made available throughout the organization. It becomes an issue of which version is the correct version and things like that. Now at the same time, many systems offer their own PDM type of program, or something has been developed in-house. The issue with that is now I have multiple programs that I have to maintain, and it just becomes an issue again of maintaining multiple systems, and those systems don't necessarily talk to each other. What we want to do is put you on one system that maintains all your data regardless of the software that's being used, and that's the power of Teamcenter. Now this is just one example of where time can be wasted. So if you look at this, it's just statistics on how much time is spent looking for data. And I think we all experience this on a daily basis. Even as simple as, I know I got that email, but where did I put that email, or how do I get back to it? Or I know that file exists, but I can't find it. But really what that relates to is money, and it's not money saved, it's money wasted. So if I look at, every individual, maybe they're spending an hour out of their day looking for data, that adds up, and it adds up significantly. The nice thing is with Teamcenter, when I put data into that, I can build relational links because I really need to understand how that data relates to other pieces of data. For example, I have a customer specification that drives or defines my product. That's really the start point, and then I start building product from that specification. Well, what if that specification changes? Do I understand or know every piece of the product that it affects? We have CNC code, we have PDFs, we have Excel, spreadsheets and Word documents all related to a product, but I need to capture all that information so when one piece of that information changes, I can understand everything it's going to affect in my product. So Teamcenter is a full-blown PLM system. It really addresses engineering, but it also addresses other business needs within the organization, and it's really about expanding throughout the organization and addressing everybody's need, but making the organization more productive and more efficient. Now, being said that, like I said, Teamcenter has a vast portfolio, which is a good thing because as my organization changes, I can add in other applications that may be relevant to my business. What we're going to focus on today is really what I call the foundational piece of Teamcenter. I'm going to do a demo around managing designs and documentations and bill of materials and processes. But that's pretty typical for any organization. That's a piece of it, and that's really a foundational level piece. So I'm going to do a live demo. I'm going to touch on these 4 key points. What we're going to look at first is just the interface, some of the search capabilities, and the embedded visualization. So with that, I'll go ahead and get into our demonstration. So as you notice, I'm just looking at Google Chrome here. I have a favorites link, and that favorite link points me to one of my work network addresses, and then I log in with my credentials. So as long as I have access to the network, my business network, and I have, oops, I missed the D there, and I have proper login credentials, I can get access to Teamcenter. Now what's nice about this interface and what we're looking at is I did it via an Internet Explorer type of function. In this case, Google Chrome. It could be Firefox. It could be the Internet Explorer. But I can run it from any platform. So I can be off an iPad device, an iPhone. I could walk up to a workstation that was just delivered to my facility. It's on the network. I have proper credentials. I don't have to load any software at this device. I can get access to Teamcenter. So it makes it very mobile if I need to be mobile within the company or factory. So you'll notice as I scoot this around, you'll notice the tiles readjust. So it is very Windows 10-like. It is, tiles, which I think most of us are used to as far as application type software. I can configure this to work how I want it. So if I want to customize this interface either for the individual or as an organization, I can do that, or I can configure that interface. But it's very easy to do and work with. So you'll notice I have various tiles here, and we'll talk about those throughout the demonstration. But what I'm going to start with is just doing a search. So if I were to start keying something in, you'll notice it starts giving me suggestions. It's showing me recent searches. So it is very much Internet Explorer-like, I think what most of us are familiar with. But I'm going to just do a full wildcard search and say, look at everything in my database. So I do that, and it comes back with 840 results. Now I have it set up so it starts categorizing at the beginning, and I have certain items in the database that have a category. So it starts to say, look, you've got, based on category sorting, you have 56 files and 3 documents. Of course, I could choose other options with that, but this is my basic configuration that I've set up. But maybe I am looking for a certain file that has been categorized. So if I select that, now it sorts by type, and you can see that it's sorted, Excel, Word, PDF. So Teamcenter manages all types of data, even text files, something as simple as a text file. But maybe I'm looking for a PDF. So if I focus on that, now by default it's sorting by the year. But you'll notice over here on the left I have my 3 PDFs. With that, I have who owns that PDF, the last date it was modified, so a date and time stamp. I also have release or status information. So what that represents on this particular PDF is that item has, in this case, it's been released, which puts certain restrictions on it. So nobody can edit it. If they need to edit it, they're going to have to be forced to revise it or basically create a new document. But if I want to know more about that particular item, I can select it. So this is your first view of visualization, built-in visualization. It's a PDF, but I'm viewing the PDF inside a Teamcenter, so I didn't have to download it. I didn't have to go bring up Adobe Acrobat or anything like that. Now with that, you'll see some basic information about it. I can also say, well, all right, I'm looking at the PDF, but what does this PDF relate to? Well, it tells me right here that it relates to this where used part. So if I want to know more about that, I can focus in on that. And I'm basically just following the breadcrumb trail, if you think of it that way. So now we're looking at this particular part. It tells me the item or part number. It's at a Rev A, and here's a basic description or name of it. Again, I have that information on the sidebar under here where properties or attributes can be listed. With that, you'll notice we see a thumbnail, and we have some options here where we can push or scan forward. So there it looks like there's a drawing that's been released to production. And if I move one more time, now we're going to look at the 3D model. So from here, I have the ability to look at the 3D model, whether it's a part or an assembly. Now think about this. I could be somebody on the shop floor. I could be somebody in procurement or purchasing, and maybe there was a dimension missing off this particular model, and I need to go back and say, you know what, I need to just take a quick measurement on that part and see what we're looking for. So I have a lot of different tools out here on the top toolbar and right toolbar. I'm just going to turn on the labels so you can kind of see what those are. But it gives me measurement tools. if I'm looking at an assembly, I could turn parts off and on. I could revise the part and so on. In this case, maybe I just want to do a quick measurement. So using the tools that visualization provides, which again are available for anybody, I can come in here and say, you know what, I just need to measure across those two holes, and immediately I get a measurement. With that, I can add more measurements, or if I need to capture this information, I have the ability to come over here and turn on capture capabilities and basically take a snapshot of that with whatever information I want to put on there, and then maybe use that to drive some type of change further down the line. So just one example of visualization, and we'll see some other ones as I get into the demonstration. You'll notice I have some other options up here. So what's nice about this interface, it is very context sensitive. So depending on what I'm looking at, it's going to present me with options that are relevant to what I'm looking at. So if I wanted to say, well, where's this part used? Again, I can follow that breadcrumb trail. Now it's telling me, well, it's related to this assembly. And we also see references. So references are a little bit different than a where used. It's telling me it's related to that part. That revision A is related to the master of that, which captures all the revisions. It also tells me that it's had a release process done on it. So I already know, has this been through a workflow before? And via the references, it tells me it has right there. And if I wanted to look more at the specifics of that workflow and why it was done, then I can click on the workflow. In this case, let's just go look at the assembly. So if I look at the assembly, what it does is it presents that assembly to me. So what we're seeing on the left here are all the thumbnails of the parts that make up that assembly. And then I have information about this particular assembly in general. If I wanted to look at it in 3D as well, I could bring that into visualization and look at it. And then by picking on these parts, it would highlight the the various components. So if I don't know exactly what this component represents in the bill of material, I can select it, it will highlight it over here, and then I can get more detailed information. Just looking at it, this is one of the ways to look at it. Again, we give you options because people like different ways to interrogate the data. If I want to see it more in a Excel structured bill of material, I have the ability to do that. You'll notice I have different columns with different information, and all that can be set to your organization. What's important to you to view in those columns? So of course you can set that. All right, so I'm just going to go back to our home area and do another wildcard search, just show you some more search functionality. So we followed that through files in the PDF, but what if I'm looking for other information? Maybe I'm looking for things that I've classified as an item revision, and then maybe I'm looking for things that are particular, are they a certain type? You'll notice all the types that I have available in the system to search on. So basically all that's doing is telling me these are the types of documents you have in your system. What do you want to narrow your search to? I also have part classes. So if I were looking at physical parts, I could classify those and say, I'm looking for a particular bearing, and I can very quickly look for, narrow down my search to that. In this case, I'm only looking for items maybe owned by Ed, and then maybe I'm only looking for items that have been released. So remember I said we can tag our items as with statuses, so like obsolete, work in progress, release to production, or whatever other status that you need to track. So if I want to go to whatever's been released, then I can do that, and you can see very quickly it narrowed my search down to 9 items starting from 800, but it's only showing me release data, and it's also sorted it by manufacturing type as well. So if I know I'm looking for purchased items, I could very quickly narrow that search down even further. Well, didn't quite mean to do that. Click on that, so I'm just going to go back. All right, so jumping back to the deck here. The interface is very intuitive. It's easy to understand. It's easy to navigate. You kind of just follow the breadcrumbs, and you can go back just like you would, take me back to the previous page like I could with Internet Explorer or something like that. But it's really about providing streamlined searching, allowing you to get to that information very quickly, and then the built-in visualization tools. But it is about fast and efficient data access. And remember, the visualization, we looked at a PDF, we looked at some 3D models, but that's available for everybody. It doesn't require any CAD seat or special viewer. It's built into Teamcenter. The next thing I want to talk about are the workflows, leveraging workflows and how we can use those to drive tasks to individuals and so on. So what I'm going to do is put something into a process. We're going to add some data and submit it to a workflow to assign tasks to individuals. Just to give you an idea of what that's going to look like, we're going to treat it as though there's an issue, and we're going to have an issue come in that's been identified by an engineer. He's going to start to look at it and basically build a change request around that issue. Now with that, he's going to attach some reference data or related data that needs to be modified, and then he's going to put that into the workflow. The workflow is going to drive work to 3 individuals. It's going to go to engineering, it's going to go to the design group, and it's going to be reviewed by a checker at the end of it, and everybody's going to receive those in a task format. Just to talk about workflows a little bit, because like I said, workflows are very powerful. They can be configured to your organization, because every organization has a different type of workflow, or they're similar but they're not identical. So this is an example of a very simple one. We start a process. That first step is to create or update a product. After that part is done, it's going to go to a review. At the review, it could be rejected or it could be approved. If it gets rejected, we could have it pushed back to the previous step, and then it goes to review again, goes to a secondary review, and at the end it gets released. Like I said, Teamcenter can do work for you. So many times companies want to take what they've created and reformat it. Maybe it needs to become a PDF. Maybe it needs to become a DXF because I'm going to send that data to a laser cutter. We can automate that within the workflow so that I can say, you know what, if I have a drawing that represents a sheet metal part, when it gets to this last step, let's create a DXF. That way I can share the DXF with my manufacturing organization. Or I could have it take the drawing and create a PDF, because that's what I'm going to send to my vendor. I don't want to send them my original CAD data. So, the workflows are very powerful. They can do things for you. They can be as easy as you want, or they can be as complex as you need them to be. So let's jump back in and start looking at that process. So I just talked about workflows. So I have my inbox. That's where my task can be delivered to me. Now, Teamcenter can be very tightly integrated with your corporate email, so my task can also be delivered to me through my email. So if I'm not logged into Teamcenter, but I am on my email, I can get information delivered to me that way as well. In this case, we're going to look through the email or through the task inbox inside of Teamcenter. And you'll notice these are just some examples I put in here. So one is a perform sign-off. If I select it, it tells me details. Typically, it would probably have some attachments, some information or targets that says, hey, you need to review this, and it would have some comments. I could review it, and I could approve it or reject it and add comments to send along with it. This next one is what we call more of a job function. So it's similar. It's still part of a workflow, but this one's asking for me to do something, and when I'm done, say that I completed that task. So again, it could have targets. In this case, it has an engineering order attached to it, which we'll look at here in a little bit. But again, I can attach things to this. It could just be a Word document, and I'm saying review the Word document, or it could be an Excel spreadsheet, could be a PDF, could be a text file. Again, limited the data type. It's just a process that we can have and say, hey, go out, review this, and give your approval or rejection or your comments. Basically, it's a digitalized process asking you to provide a digital signature. All right, so we're going to start something similar to that. We're going to say that the engineer has identified an issue, and he already knows of this. There's been a photograph or a markup created, so he's going to create what we're going to call an engineering order. Now, the engineering order is a unique type of item, so we're going to it has some specifics to it, but we're just going to call it the change request, and then he's going to take that and move it forward and basically build a change scenario, or what do I want to say, a solution around this change. All right, so there's our change request. When we look at this, what you'll notice again is I have these context-sensitive menus or options. With the change order or the engineering order, I get a change request and a change notice form. I can attach attachments. If it's used someplace, we're going to see that as well. I'll have history and so on. We're going to start by adding an attachment to this. So let's say something has been brought to the engineer's attention. That particular item currently resides on my desktop. So I'm just going to go out here and navigate to my desktop, and here I've got a JPEG image. Now maybe it's a real picture, maybe it's something that somebody created, but I'm going to bring that JPEG image into my environment here. So I'm just going to add that as an attachment. Now it's inside of Teamcenter. I could go delete the one off my local workstation because now this image is managed. It's in a managed environment. If we want to take a look at that, see what it's all about, we can open it up. And it's identifying a particular assembly in this case. Again, it could have been a Word document or something else, but it's a picture, and it says, hey, we've got an issue of interference and we want to lengthen out this leg section. So as the engineer, I would think, well, you know what, I need to make sure that's an issue, and can we do that? Is it possible? What am I going to affect if I make those changes? So probably the first course of action as the engineer would be, I need to research this. Well, I know a little bit of information about that part. They identified it as 122. They didn't give me the full part number, but I say, let's go search for that. So very quickly, again, you can see how I searched. We can look at for an item revision or the JPEG. Well, the JPEG is the item I just added. So even though I just added it, it's now searchable. It's available for other people to find that particular markup as long as they have the proper access rights. So I want to look at this particular item. That looks like the assembly that picture referred to. So let's go ahead and open this and inspect it a little bit more. So now we can see the bill of material. I'm just going to change to our list with summary option here. And I can see all the parts inside that bill of material. Now I know there's one part in question there, and that's the part that I want to focus on. So I'm going to bring that up in visualization as well. So again, I have full visualization. Again, I could turn parts off and on. You'll notice when I select a part, it's going to highlight it over here on the sidebar menu. And if I pick a part over here on the sidebar menu, it's going to go the other way. It's going to highlight in the graphics, so you have dual functionality there. This is the part of interest. That's the part that we think we need to change. So as the engineer, I'd go in here, investigate, is that too close? Maybe we do have interference. I could then focus in on that part specifically and say, let's look at that individual part. So from here, I can go in. There's the drawing of that part. There's the physical 3D part, so I could take measurements, inspect it as well, and now we're cycled back to the drawing. Maybe I want to look at the where used, make sure it's not used in 14 assemblies. Nope, looks like it's only used in that one assembly. So if I make the change, I'm only going to affect that one part. What about attachments? Is there anything I need to know about it? Well, there's a PDF, there's the draft file, there's the physical part file, and the direct model. So the direct model is a JT representation or a JT model of the part. If you're not familiar with JT, JT is a high precision, high accuracy representation of the physical part. So when we're looking at it in visualization, we're actually looking at the JT model. It's very lightweight. I can share the JT outside of the organization with other individuals. They can download a free viewer, and then they can take measurements or print if I give them that capability. So the nice thing about JT is I can send it to my outside vendors, but I can send it to them just for visualization without measuring capabilities to prevent people from reverse engineering my information. So I'm just going to cycle back and go back to that engineering order that we started with. So we're back at the engineering order. You know what? I want to add that PDF in here. And the reason I'm doing that is because I need to mark up that PDF. That PDF is going to drive a change. Maybe I've done enough looking at this and I've realized, you know what, that part does need to change. So from here, using tools inside of Teamcenter, I can very quickly come in and identify an area to change. And we're just going to, box this up in here. and then say, let's move that. All right, so that's my area, but of course I'd have to have a note here to kind of explain it. So we're just going to tell it to move. Well, if I could type here, we're going to just tell it to move that 40 millimeters out. I would probably, add additional notes in here, maybe make the change from the assembly or something like that, and just giving notes to whoever is going to make that change. The nice thing here is once that information is entered, you'll notice initially it's not there. We could have a note that says review to the markup. If I stand over this, it gives me the person that created the markup, a date and time stamp, and it gives me basically that note of what the change is, or I could come over here and pick it as well and have it highlight. The nice thing about this is if this is a multi-page document and I have multiple notes or something here, as I select these, it will automatically scan to that location within the document. So I don't necessarily have to navigate through the document manually. All right, so we added an attachment. The next thing we might want to do is fill out one of these forms. Maybe both the forms is your business process. We're just going to fill out one of them to give you an idea of what it looks like. So as you can see, it's a basic form. My form is very basic and generic. Your form may have other fields. You can have mandatory fields, and you'll notice some of these have selection list. So if I want to limit whoever's filling out the form, what type of information they put in, I can give them options. Many times, we want to keep that kind of standardized, so I can do that very easily here. So I'm going to fill out all the pre-populated or the optional ones. So there we've got that. Here we might just want to put in some notes again. I'm just going to, give it basically the same information that I had on the markup. And I'd probably even put in more detailed information. But as you can see, we can add what we need to. It could be that I have some mandatory ones that have to be filled out before the form's accepted. But once I fill it out, then the form information is there. The nice thing is if 2 years down the road this part starts breaking because we changed it, we can come back to this change request and see why did we change it in the first place? Well, what was the issue? Maybe 40 millimeters was too much and we should have only moved it 20 millimeters, or we can look at those type of things. Hopefully we'd find that with the analysis part before we actually made the physical change to 40 millimeters, but just as an example. Now the engineering order, you'll notice I have different fields here. This is what's going to drive the individual making the change, which items to look at or which items to change. Well, I want him to make the change from the assembly level, so I'm going to add that as a reference. The clamp is the physical part that's been identified as needing to be changed, but I'm going to add both those in. That way, when it gets to the next individual that's making the change, he understands which part is really related to the assembly, and he can verify or look at both of those. You'll also notice I have an obsolete path here. Well, based on this workflow, I know if we make a change and we make a new revision of B and move away from A, I don't want people using B anymore. I want that to become obsolete. So based on the change requests that I'm using and based on the workflow I'm going to put it into, if I get final approval or final signature, the system will be automated to move that to a revision, to remove that from a release status of 60 to an obsolete status. All right, so at this point, everything is done. I've built my use case. I created, I did the where, added a markup on the attachments. I filled out the form. I added the relevant data, and I think everything's good to go. And I could also add some additional comments here in our collaboration area if I wanted to, that could, provide more information going forward. But we're going to go with that and now put it into a workflow. So like I said, the workflows can be easy or as complex as you need them to be. I have many different workflows here to choose from. I already have one that's set up for what we're going to do here. And again, I'm just going to call this the change request. and put it on its way. So I can have the workflows assigned to groups, to individuals, to people. I can do it manually. As I'm building this, I could say, I want this workflow to go to Bob, and I want it to go to Tom, and I want them to give approval before it goes into process. And you can set that up within the workflow. You can have it go to a team, and then that team basically would all get an indication within their task list. So if we go back to my inbox, this workflow, I have it originate or recycle right to the originator. I do that for the sake of speed within the demo. But think of it this way: instead of it coming right back to Ed, the engineer, maybe it went to Bob, and Bob's in another state, and Bob and Ed don't even know each other personally, but he's in that workflow. He's part of the process. So as Bob clicks on this, what does he see? Well, he says he sees any instructions or descriptions of what he needs to do. He has to either approve this or reject this review change process. And now he's presented with the drawing. Well, he can immediately say, well, what's markups? And he can review the markups. He can move forward and say, well, there's that image that says it looks like we have interference here. So then he can go in and say, let me look more in depth at this. He can go look at the targets. You'll notice what you're seeing here is the interface is very consistent. We're seeing what we already saw. The attachments are in there. Under that, we have the form filled out so we could very quickly review the form information. And then we have the engineering order items so we could see all the items affected. So if Tom or whoever this is at another location is reviewing this, he has everything delivered right to him. He can very quickly then give his either approval or rejection, or he could add additional notes if he needs to. In this case, we're just going to say approved for change, do it, and he hits approve. So now the workflow is moving on. If we look back at Ed's box, it's gone. All we're seeing are those two old ones that are sitting there. If he wants to track it, he has the ability to track it, see who's working on it, see if they've completed their task, and so on. Ed may not care, but your managers may care, or supervisors, so they have that ability as well. All right. So we very quickly looked at the workflows. They're very configurable. You can set up the participants or you can assign them, but the participant assignment is very powerful. I can have it go into a group of 10 engineers, and as their workload allows them and they finish one task, they can take ownership of the next task and then start working on that. Easy designation of the affected items, so all those can be identified, and then but really what it's about is creating a consistent managed change process throughout the organization. I'm showing it very centric to engineering around CAD data. Don't think you're locked into that type of data. It really applies to any type of data. So what I'm going to show you is one CAD integration. We integrate with all the major CAD players, but I'm going to show you the perspective from the designer of he's going to get this notification, make the changes, put it back into Teamcenter, and it's all the revision control and version control is being managed in Teamcenter. That way we don't end up with 2 revision Bs, or we don't create a revision when one should not be revised or something like that. So with that, I'm going to jump into Solid Edge. Now that's the product I'm using for this. It could be SolidWorks, it could be Pro, it really could be any product, CAD application, Autodesk applications. We integrate with all the major players. So typically, once I log into my workstation, I would more than likely be logged in because I'm playing multiple roles. I have to log in a few times here. So initially I was Ed, now I'm Don, our designer. So this is Solid Edge, typical CAD interface. The only difference is I logged into Teamcenter, which then provides me access to Teamcenter. So from here, you'll notice it's the exact same interface, all inside the CAD application. So I don't have to wait for emails or papers to show up on my desk. I can be working in CAD all day and everything goes up there. So there it is, implement the change. I'm not going to dive into too deep on this because you've seen it all, but there's the markup, so the designer can see the markup that's being requested, change that they want. He can go look at the attachments. The important thing is here he's got his targets that have been sent through the engineering order. So once he looks at that, again, he can review all the information, but what's nice is he can get immediate access to the CAD data that's being requested for him to change. So he can see there's the assembly, there's the part, he can select it, and then right from here he can say, open up in my CAD application. So I'm making Don, our designer, very productive, much more efficient. He gets everything delivered right to him within the CAD application. We can see that it took the assembly because that's what we chose to open and checked it out to him. So now he has control of the assembly. Now that doesn't stop anybody else from modifying the parts based on my configuration that I have defined. So I'm allowing Pat to still work on components within the assembly because it's not affecting the top level of my design. And that's fine. That allows me to work collaboratively. Don needs to modify this. So Don selects the part, says let's go edit that part, and immediately is presented with an indication that that part is released to production. Well, we can't modify that part. They're already making it, in production. So we get two options: either save it as a brand new part or revise it. Based on his instructions, he's going to do a revision on it. Teamcenter now looks and says, all right, the next available revision letter or level is B. But it also says, hey, Don, there's a drawing that's also released. You may want to update that as well. So Don immediately can say, you know what, yeah, this saved me time. I don't have to go look for a drawing. It brought it right to my attention. Let's do it. So I get in here and I start making the changes, and I'm just working in CAD like I would every day. So there's no difference here of how Don's going to do the changes. That's just normal CAD operation. He just got notified of the information much quicker. Everything was delivered to him. He can make the change that's requested and very quickly, look at it, verify, well, I got plenty of clearance in there now. I'm guaranteed there's no interference. Let's go ahead and update the drawing. That was the next thing because it already identified that drawing as we've got a new drawing to create. So here's our new drawing. It's already created a revision B of it. The software doesn't do the change till we tell it to update the views, and that's just a way that this particular software works. So we say update the views. We can go in, make sure all the dimensions are where they need to be, and if I'm satisfied with everything and all the changes look good, then I can come out and say, you know what, let's check it all back in. Let's save these files and put it back into Teamcenter. So it just comes back and verifies. We're going to put it back into the database. You do have the option to keep it checked out if you're going to continue working on it, over a period of time, and you just want to update so that other people have visibility to the work in progress. In this case, we're putting it all back in. So there I just put the assembly back in its original revision because we didn't change the assembly physically. All we did was change the part. So going back here to our process, I'm not sure if you can see that hanging out. I'm not sure why just the graphics left it hanging out there. The CAD application did. But I just need to add in a revised part. I created a new part. So as part of the process, I want to let people know I created that new part. Again, the search tools are here and available inside of the CAD application as well. So if I need to do a very quick search, you can see I can do that. There's my new revision B. We can just say add that as a revised part. And then I go back to my overview. And sorry, I get these little Java warnings popping up, basically security stuff. And I say, you know what, I've completed my task. So I can just say the changes are made, and we send it on its way. So now Don has just updated everybody that he's made the changes that have been requested. So I'm almost done here. Let's go ahead and exit the CAD application. Direct integration to Teamcenter. Regardless of the CAD tool you use, it has a similar process. So it's really more about the interaction with Teamcenter. They're all similar. Ease of identified issues and invoking the change because it's all delivered within the CAD application. And it's really creating a streamlined revision and release management. So everything is controlled. I don't have access rights. I had to revise that part because the system was aware that that part had been released to production. But it's really about improving the efficiency and productivity within your organization. So the last part is, we'll go through this very quickly. Just verify the change, look at that, finalize that workflow, and run a couple reports. So I'm going to jump back into Teamcenter here, and instead of Ed, we're going to log in as Mary, who we consider one of the managers. So Mary's going to log in to Teamcenter as well. She could be on a different laptop or device. Again, it's the same scenario, right? She has something in her inbox. Maybe it came through the mail system. It's asking for a checker review. She could open it up. Same information. So, she can look at the markup. She can look at the views. What you'll notice here is now we have a revision B that's been identified as a new target item that's related to that engineering order. If she goes to attachments, we're going to see all the new revisions. I have a new solid edge draft file at revision B. I have a new solid edge part at revision B. Look at that. A new PDF. I never went out and created the PDF manually. I have the workflow do that for me because that's what I'm going to send to my vendor. As a manager, she may want to look at the workflow. Who participated? Who helped make this change happen? So from here, she can graphically see the workflow, everything as it flowed along. She can see any comments anybody provided. She sees date and time stamps of when things were done. Now, Ed's involved in every one of these because Ed is the one that set up the team to address this. If I want to look at the details of any of these, I can do that. So very easily here I can see Ed set up the team, but Don did the work. We can also bring up a legend that says, show me what's been completed, and it highlights completed things, or show me where we're at, or show me what's pending, and so on. So I have different options. So Mary would review everything, look at it, and then she could give her approval or rejections. And here she says approved for release, and hits the button. So at that point, the engineering order is done. Just for the sake of this, because I have some shortcuts on the other screen, I'm going to log back in as Ed here very quickly. So maybe Ed's also a manager and he wants to see, what things have been completed, where the engineering orders are at, what's the status of them. So he has a saved search that maybe he does on a daily basis, and he can bring up all the engineering orders that are in process or released. So he can see that this one's been released. There's that one that we just did, the EO7, and it's released. So very quickly he can interrogate that. He can see by owner. He can search on various criteria. If he wants to look at this, and I'm going to bring up the engineering order just to give you an idea, now we can see status. So remember, revision A originally was released to production at status 60. Now it is status 90. Status 90 in my configuration represents obsolete. So it obsoleted revision A, and revision B now is released because that was part of the workflow also. Once it got final approval from Mary, the status tags were moved. Something else a manager may want to do are just various reports. So we have very powerful reporting capabilities inside of Teamcenter. I'm just going to show you a couple examples. So as you can see, my list is pretty extensive. These can be configured, again, to what you need the reports to do. But maybe I need to do a report occasionally by status, items by status. So I can come out here and say, you know what, let's look at everything, but I only want to look at what Ed owns, and I only want to look at things that are in status 60. And I can run that report. Now I could print the report, or I can have it come straight to the screen. I could send it to an Excel file. But here we see any items that were affected by Ed that are at a status 60 or were at a status 60. I currently have my system tracking previous and current statuses, but that could be configured to just show current. Another thing, let's go look at that workflow. So as a manager, maybe I've been tracking, this workflow, and I want to see who signed off, when they completed the task, kind of date and time stamp info. So again, I can come out here. And this time we're looking for a specific one. So I'm just going to key in a mixture of variables that I know are going to bring up that specific task, or sorry, engineering order. And here it is completed. EO7 change request, I get, log dates, date and time stamps, who completed in those three major steps within the workflow, any comments that they made, and so on. So again, the reporting capabilities are very powerful, give you access to see, status of parts, where we are at in a process something is, and so on. So just on a summary, automatic status updates, capturing traceability, extensive reporting and auditing, but it's again about giving your organization or the people that need it visibility to the work in process and change status and so on. So just to finish off here very quickly, it's full-featured. Teamcenter is full-featured. It's flexible really to fit your organization, and it is scalable. So even though you may not implement everything at once, which I would recommend away from, you start where you need to start, and as your business or needs grow or change, you can grow, the team or the software can grow with you, and it can be deployed very quickly. And the high-level benefits improves efficiency, it streamlines, automates tasks that you typically do, reduces the overall operational costs, and really is a secure data management regardless of the type of data. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Madison.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Kurt. I appreciate it. Let me just take back the presentation here. All right. So this is an example of an ROI for an existing SolidWorks customer with 10 CAD users that will be adding Teamcenter RapidStart. Payback is based on a McKinsey report that states that people spend about 2 hours a day looking for data. And this is conservative because no other benefits are included, like the revision control or workflows or doc management or searching, like Kurt. I'm sorry, it is searching. It is not the things that Kurt was showing you, the other things Kurt was showing you. So you can show payback in 8 months. This includes the software that you need for 10 users. And then that's the new bundle. And then the RapidStart overlay. So that's just a site license. And then the maintenance. And then the services. And this is for that particular install that I was talking about previously. So this is an example for that. And there might be, maybe you have multiple locations and you need cache servers, and, it might be different for you. But for this small business installation, we kept the price very, very nice for the small business type application. This is for Solid Edge. Now with Solid Edge, they have, if you already own Solid Edge Classic, you can upgrade to Solid Edge Classic with Teamcenter. And this price, because they didn't anticipate the upgrade when they did this, I think this price is going to change towards the end of the year here to be more like this price, because again, they didn't anticipate it. But I checked and we can use this price for now. So this is an awesome deal for people who already own Classic to be able to upgrade for this cost, because you turn in your Classic and you get SE Classic with Teamcenter. And then the site license, and then the maintenance, and then again, this is that specific installation and the online training for that installation that I showed you earlier. So again, that's a huge benefit. Just wanted to mention that what we do, so why choose us? Well, there are many reasons. One is that our competitors in this space, they manage the file itself. So the links to any non-CAD data have to be manually created. What we offer here is the item and the item revision containers. It's like a file folder with special properties. So we take all of the data creating during your life cycle, no matter what it is, and the attribute information, and we store them here in the item and item revision. So if you have an Excel spreadsheet like Kurt was showing, text files and PDFs, if you have an Excel spreadsheet with calculations that go with your CAD, you can add them to the item revision folder for that CAD file, and you do a where reference, you're going to see that. And that allows you to easily link other file types associated with the CAD. So, but looking at a bigger picture of Industry 4.0, first we made machines to make things easier and cheaper. Next we made factories with assembly lines to mass produce, and then we started digitizing with CAD and with NC programming and such. So now we're in what people are calling the Industry 4.0, which I'm sure you've heard of. And we're using a digital twin of the product, and we can virtually produce it and feedback information on the results. So here we have the design and development and then the manufacturing and automation. So under design, this is the product lifecycle management part of our suite where you have simulation and design and development. And then you have the manufacturing operations management, and then you have the actual production going on here. So Siemens is the only company in the world that's able to connect the digital twin with the actual product that's being made and used and get feedback from the actual physical product and the manufacturing equipment. And you're probably saying this is too big a picture for your company right now. And you may be right, but think about when CAD and NC programming started and when they were first used with large companies. It trickled down to the smaller and medium-sized businesses. Now everybody has it. And that's what's going to happen. And those that didn't get on board didn't survive. And you see that happening in many other industries, like JCPenney's in the news this week, and last week it was Toys R Us in the retail industry. So looking at this a bit differently, and just at the PLM modules, you can see we cover the whole range of product lifecycle, like Kurt was telling us earlier. But you got to start somewhere, and that's the point he was trying to make. You've got to lay that foundation. So people start with the CAD management and a release process. You have visualization that allows even the non-CAD users to see the information. Maybe you have BOM management, but you get the ROI quickly for this small chunk. And that's what Teamcenter RapidStart offers. Then if and when you need it, you add on only what's needed for your business. So Teamcenter RapidStart, the PDM, offers a quick path, just a license change and a 10-minute configuration change to full-blown Teamcenter, and nobody else offers that. So you've seen how using our best practices, Teamcenter RapidStart with our new bundles for software and services can get you up and running quickly. And Industry 4.0 is happening, and Siemens is the only company that has the entire digital twin connecting design, development, manufacturing, and service in the digital and real world. So these are some of the reasons that you should choose Siemens to help you start laying that foundation for the future. So I want to thank you very much for your time today, and I may not have answered all of the questions in the dialogue, but I'll get back to you individually. Thank you so much for your time today.